The shocking plight of the rhino and the elephant is the issue closest to Prince William's heart. On several trips to Kenya and South Africa, he and his brother Harry have witnessed the slaughter.
Your Royal Highness.
How are you doing?
Yeah, nice to see you. Thank you very much for doing this.
A world away from the African bush, in the drawing room of Kensington Palace, I met the Prince. Together we watched the latest images filmed by ITV News for this special series.
Yeah, it's so sad to see such a waste.
He told me the numbers now dying were mind-numbing and said extinction is now closer than ever before.
We've reached a whole new phase where if current trends and statistics are correct, which they seem to be headed that way, then we are looking at no more rhinos, no more elephants. There won't be any of those particular iconic species roaming the African plains in the wild.
We've been talking to game wardens in Africa in the last few days who are saying it's now make or break.
Yeah, I think it is. In the next 5 to 10 years, if there's not a massive change, a dramatic change in the way we appreciate and protect these iconic species in Africa, there won't be these incredible animals there, which not only is obviously sad for future generations, but I think it would be incredibly devastating for humanity itself when we have sat back and we've lost something that we've been responsible for.
But from what you're saying, you think it's 5 to 10 years to save the rhino.
If we haven't achieved something within the next 5 to 10 years, then we will be almost impossible to do anything after that, because the numbers will be so depleted, the damage will have been done so badly, and clearly the demand won't have been halted.
It is the demand and the staggering price ivory and rhino horn now fetch that drives the killing. It involves criminal gangs with links, in some cases, says Prince William, to terrorism.
But there are possible links to terrorism that are involved with poaching. You know, it's a very difficult subject for me to get involved in, but there is definitely evidence out there. It isn't
so
just...
poaching is funding acts of terror now?
In certain areas, there is potential evidence and links that I can't go into myself, but I know of, that are of a concern that I think we should be taking more urgent action on.
But the greatest problem is demand in China and Asia, where ivory is a status symbol and mistakenly rhino horn is considered medicinal or an aphrodisiac. China has said it will ban the sale of ivory, but it hasn't said when.
The faster we can move at this, the better. We need to keep the momentum up. And I know that there are more and more efforts being made.
I read somewhere that you were trying to get ivory removed from palaces. Was it true, and did you have any luck with it?
I jokingly had a conversation with somebody about it, and I mean, obviously I'd like to make a point that I don't think ivory is particularly cool, and I don't think it should be on mantelpieces and in people's houses anymore.
There's been controversy over Prince William hunting and shooting game himself. He says the killing of Cecil the lion by an American game hunter was wrong, but insists some so-called trophy hunting, where money is paid to kill, is justifiable.
How do you square that with your passionate advocacy of conservation?
There is a place for commercial hunting in Africa, as there is around the world. It's not to everyone's cup of tea, but the argument for regulated, properly controlled commercial hunting is that the money that goes from shooting a very old, infirm animal goes back into the protection of the other species. So when one is infertile, he's at the end of his life, if somebody out there wants to pay that money, and it wouldn't be me, but if somebody did, then as long as that money goes back into protection of the species, then it is a justifiable means of conserving species that are under serious threat. And that isn't just me talking, that is a lot of eminent conservationists out there who truly believe that there's a balance to be had here. And of course, it is a fine balance, and it does involve a lot of regulation.
But Cecil the lion was unforgivable.
Yes.
Would you like to see George, Charlotte working in Africa in conservation, in their early 20s maybe?
No, I'd definitely like to see George and Charlotte in Africa. I think they'd have a wonderful time, and I can see George being a bit of a bum sometimes out in the conservation world with his bangles and his sandals. But I think I would love them to be interested in the subject and pursue the same sort of ideas and aims that I am.
Your passion for this is obvious. How annoyed do you get then when, you read, oh, you're not busy enough and stuff like that?
Well, these sorts of things take a lot of time. They take a lot of planning, a lot of knowledge building, a lot of conversations. I didn't want to get to 45, 50 and sit back and say, do you know what, I could have said something about that issue, but I didn't because, I was worried about what people thought or people said.
But does it frustrate you that people criticise you and say you're not busy enough, you're not working hard enough?
It's part of the job, Mark.
But it frustrates you, I'm sure.
Today is more about talking about the poaching crisis, and I want to turn around and turn to my children and my friends and talk to other people my age, and having known that we have truly made a difference, we have fixed something, we have given hope to the future, and that should give everybody a lift and realise that there is hope, that we can fix stuff.
Your Royal Highness, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks very much.